These are the quarterbacks that are going to break out in fantasy football this year. This isn't about ADP. We're going to be talking about people based on where they're getting drafted, sleepers, players to avoid in a couple weeks from now. This is just players that we think are going to break out, take a step up, or maybe even return to form for some of these. Kicking it off, I'm going with Bo Nix. And I know you're surprised I went with Bo Nix. I'm not much of a believer, but the data doesn't lie. Bo Nix started his career with 2 straight quarterback 7 finishes, without eclipsing 4,000 yards in either of those years, and without going over 30 touchdowns in either of those years. He had like 550-ish attempts as a rookie and then led the NFL in attempts last year with 612. I expect that to remain consistent. Can I predict he'll be number 1 in attempts this year? Probably not. He will be in the top 5. That's the way Sean Payton wants to run this offense. I know he passed play calling duties over to Davis Webb, but Sean Payton's the head of the ship. He wants his offense run a certain way. They're not going to be able to run the ball. They ranked 19th in total team rushing attempts last year. There's no reason to suggest that that will change. J.K. Dobbins isn't going to magically play a full 17. R.J. Harvey isn't going to magically be good at football. Jonah Coleman isn't coming in as a rookie and changing this run game. The way Sean Payton wants to run his offense, the run game is the short stuff, the screen passes, the flat routes, all of that stuff. Another note about Bo Nix that I have here before I get into the big note is in their playoff game against the Bills, a big emphasis was tempo, and they called it NASCAR, getting to the line, letting Bo cook. And without diving deep into the stats, you watch a Broncos game, you watch the Broncos' entire season. Bo Nix is a guy who quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3 struggled and then turned it up in quarter 4. In the playoff game against the Bills, they went hurry up. They got to the line very quick, off the rip in the first quarter. What that allows that to do is it allows Bo Nix to get into a rhythm early on in these games and get a feel for how the game's going and have a complete good game. And I expect a lot of that in 2026. And then the big elephant in the room, Jalen Waddle coming to town. The Broncos, I saw this on Twitter. I forgot who posted it, but they were second in the NFL in percent of receiver error causing incompletions. Amongst the top of the league in drops, Cortland Sutton, hands of stone for the most part. He's a good red zone guy, but drops a lot of passes. They're relying on who? Lil Jordan Humphrey, Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin. Like, it just wasn't getting the job done. They go out, they trade a first-round pick for Jalen Waddle. And it's a connection that I think is going to be a match made in heaven. So Bo Nix, obviously, this is via reception perception, obviously threw the most to his check down. That's Bo Nix's game. He's a check down merchant. His second through fourth highest route percentage that he threw to were 9 routes, go routes, post, and corners. Jalen Waddle happens to be the most successful on those 3 routes. Running corners, obviously running straight. He's a straight line speed guy, sub 4.4 guy, and then post routes, running deep. We've seen Bo Nix in flashes be able to push the ball down the field. And I think the reason he doesn't do it as often is because of the offense that he was in and because of the weapons that he was given, the hand he was dealt as a rookie and in his second year. I think the addition of Jalen Waddle not only takes the Broncos' offense to another level, but it takes Bo Nix to another level. And this is a guy who, like I said to start this thing off, 2 straight quarterback 7 finishes, hasn't eclipsed 4,000, hasn't eclipsed 30 touchdowns. I think he goes over on both of those this year. Plus, he's a guy who has a little bit of rushing upside, too, can move outside the pocket, might get a couple of rushing touchdowns in there. So, yeah, this is a guy who might push being a top 5 fantasy quarterback this year.
I absolutely love it. I was very shocked when you told me before we started recording that you were going to be a believer in Bo Nix, a Bo-lever this year. And I'm glad that you have come around because, obviously, I've been a Bo fan for a while. I do believe he's a great value in fantasy football. He has been a QB1 in the past 2 years, and I expect more of the same this year with more upside, as you said, in the passing game. Speaking of more upside in the passing game and a guy that can run, my first quarterback breakout this year is a little bit of a re-breakout. This guy has been great in the past, has been very hyped up in the past. It is Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is the breakout quarterback this year in fantasy football, in my personal opinion, because he is so heavily slept on. Currently, he is the QB 21 in ADP, and I expect that to move up significantly as draft season approaches even closer. So I'll say this. The last time that Kyler played a full season, he was the quarterback 10. That is with limited weapons and a horrific play caller. We all remember the Drew Petzing days, and we wish we don't. This is also off of a torn ACL, and the guy still had 572 rushing yards. So I see that a lot of people, myself included, had questions for whether Kyler can be in a Kevin O'Connell system, whether he could be accurate enough, whether he could play on time. I think he's capable of all of these things. It's just, does he have a play caller that could put him in the situation to do so? I mean, in his career, he has a 67.1 completion percentage. That's a ridiculously high number. He can play within structure. Kevin O'Connell will get him to do so, but the beauty of Kyler Murray, and this is something that Kevin O'Connell has not had yet, is he can also play out of structure. We know that. He's motivated. It's a big-time contract year. He has weapons in Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Jawan Jennings just signed there, TJ Hawkinson. Like, this is the best weapon room Kyler Murray has had in his entire career. Just for last year, in case you think Kyler Murray fell off just a little bit, fantasy, I promise you he hasn't. In 5 games last year, he averaged over 35 rushing yards per game. I think in a full 17, personally, it's a damn near guarantee the guy will go for over 4,000 yards for the first time in his career with these weapons. And on top of that, he's never thrown for 30 touchdowns. I'm more than willing to bet that that will be the case as well. And obviously, as I mentioned before, the rushing upside, his floor is basically 450 rushing yards if he plays a full 17. That in and of itself is game-breaking in fantasy football. So I think everybody's forgetting about Kyler Murray, but it's time that this man puts himself back on the map, and we're all going to remember the name this year. So
Yeah, I think a point that you hit there was the question mark surrounding Kyler Murray playing in a Kevin O'Connell offense, and I think a good comparison is the pairing between Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson, right?
Yes.
Ben Johnson comes over from Detroit, has a pocket passer in Jared Goff, and there were question marks around that pairing, dating back to last summer, and look at where it got the Bears, and I think that's what we're going to see here in Minnesota. It's going to be a little of, okay, Kyler, like, can you improve on these things? Can you play on time? Can you play within structure? Which, like you mentioned, he has the best supporting cast he's had in his career.
Yes.
He should be able to do that better than he has. I'm not saying Kyler Murray's going to turn into, Peyton Manning within the pocket, but he should be able to do that better. And then the flip side of it is Kevin O'Connell allowing Kyler Murray in spurts to go be Kyler Murray and not have to do what he had to do in Arizona, where he had to be the offense where it'll come in spurts. And a guy like Kyler, he's always going to have a rushing floor. So, yeah, I think Kyler's in for a very big year. I think
completely agree.
There's a lot of people who wrote Kyler Murray off, and is Kyler Murray a top 10 franchise quarterback? Probably not at this point. Fantasy football, Kyler Murray should be a stud. And like I said at the top, we weren't really factoring in ADP here. Kyler Murray at the quarterback 21 should probably end up being a steal. We're probably going to revisit Kyler Murray when we talk about quarterback sweepers. I wouldn't be surprised.
I completely agree. I'll make one more point. In case anyone is questioning whether or not Kyler can be successful, I'll bring you a guy that doesn't have any rushing upside whatsoever. Kirk Cousins, former quarterback in the Minnesota Vikings. In 2022, the man was the QB6 overall. And in 2023, prior to his Achilles tear, he was averaging over 20 points per game in fantasy football. This is a guy that doesn't run whatsoever in a Kevin O'Connell system. So, yes, he values accuracy. I just told you Kyler could be accurate. And on top of that, he has those superhero moments that are going to get you a ton of points in fantasy.
Before we move on to the next quarterback, make sure you guys leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, if you're enjoying the fantasy football content. It goes a long way because for the entire month of August, so 2 weeks from when you're seeing this, Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, you guys will be getting a daily video. We're working our asses off to put out this fantasy content for you guys, so a like and a subscribe really goes a long way. My next quarterback breakout, he had a little bit of a mini breakout as a rookie, but I think he's going to fully come onto the scene this year. It's Tyler Shough. I'm going to keep this one pretty short and sweet because I feel like this one's fairly obvious. The guy only started 9 games, so he'll be better overall playing a full 17, you assume. From weeks 12 to 18, he was the quarterback 6 in total fantasy points per game. He was 12th in the league in passing yards during that stretch. I mean, the Saints, you have Chris Olave finally playing a full season and fully breaking out himself. You add Jordan Tyson with top 10 draft capital. You pay Travis Etienne, however you want to call him, a big money contract. The offense got better. They have more weapons. This is a young and ascending offensive line. And then the Kellen Moore effect. That's kind of the big point here. They're going to be amongst the top of the league, probably at the top of the league in terms of tempo and overall plays ran. That's what they were last year. And then just a quick Kellen Moore thing. As an OC with Dallas, so this is dating back to 2019, 27.1 points per game, 24.7 points per game, 31.2 points per game, 27.5. Goes to LA, 21.6, not as much, but still a good amount. 2024 with the Eagles, 27 points per game, and then last year with the Saints was only 18 points per game. Kellen Moore is a great offensive mind. They have weapons. Tyler Shough showed that he could be a reliable starting quarterback in this league. He's a guy who, over that week 12 to 18 stretch, too, averaged, I think, like 30-ish rushing yards per game. So he has a little bit of a rushing floor. That's not why you're drafting him, but he adds a little bit, could get a couple rushing touchdowns in there. So, yeah, I think Tyler Shough is another guy who we mentioned it with Bo, we mentioned it with Kyler. This is a guy who could be pushing that 4,030 mark. He should end up around there. I think the books have him at like 36.50, and they're low on his touchdowns. I think they have him at like 20, 21, 22. So a little bit lower on the touchdowns. But this is a guy who should be around that 4,030 mark, honestly.
I'm all for it. I'm not the biggest Tyler Shough believer, but I absolutely do think the numbers are going to be there. And the guy has tremendous upside in fantasy football as long as he stays healthy. It's the one big caveat with Tyler Shough. But yeah, no, I'm with it. And I'll follow you up with another second-year guy. And honestly, the data points aren't going to sell you super high on Cam Ward, but I promise you, if you watch the games, Cam Ward looks like an absolute superstar. And I'll bring you this point. Brian Daboll, we all know as an superstar offensive mind, a guy who has turned two quarterbacks, taken them and molded these balls of clay into what has turned into phenomenal football players in Josh Allen and Jackson Dart. And I think, if we're being quite honest, this is the most polished passer he's had in his career of being an offensive coordinator. Cam Ward, as a prospect, is better than what Josh Allen and what Jackson Dart were. And now Brian Daboll gets the opportunity to work with a guy like that. So I think Cam Ward, his rushing upside isn't ridiculous. He'll give you 200 yards and a couple touchdowns. It's just a little bit extra there. But I do think Cam Ward is more than capable of having over 4,000 passing yards and 30 touchdowns this year, especially when you factor in that last year, this guy was throwing the corpse of Calvin Ridley and basically nobody's. Hate to say it, but it's the truth. And then what do? They go and draft Carnell Tate with ridiculously high draft capital, and then go sign a guy that Brian Daboll had catching 100 balls basically last year in Wan'Dale Robinson. So Cam now has guys that could get open in the deep parts of the field, the middle parts of the field, and underneath. So I think that Cam Ward is set to have a huge year, and the guy was in the top 12 in big-time throws last year also, by the way. Yes, there were turnover-worthy plays, but I think this is stuff that you're going to have cleaned up. But Cam Ward has the opportunity here to step into a situation now with Brian Daboll where everything's opened up, and he's going to have a ridiculous year, in my personal opinion. So I'm all in on Cam Ward, and don't overthink it. He's a first overall pick with a great offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I think the biggest selling point on Cam Ward is the room for growth, right? Like, the numbers last year, like you mentioned, they're not even worth bringing up because they were so bad. This is a completely different situation. Yes. New offensive mind, new weapons, new head coach, new logo, new jerseys. Yep. So, like, it's a new era in Tennessee, and there's pretty much just everything you said. There's a reason he was the first overall pick. The guy has immense talent, and he put it together last year. I spoke about this on the podcast. I forgot exactly what the time frame was, but he ended the season, his last few games, it was 9 touchdowns to 1 interception. So he cleaned up a lot of the stuff that was going wrong there. They won a couple of those games, too. So, yeah, I think the kid's super talented. He's not going to give you that same rushing floor that a Kyler Murray might give you, but he's a guy who's going to extend plays. He's going to get outside the pocket. Some of those extending plays might turn into rushing touchdowns. Who knows? But, yeah, this is a guy who just overall should be better than last season. Like, this is the definition of a breakout. What does that translate to in terms of fantasy success and ADP and all that? I don't know exactly, but breakout player will be better than last season, 100%. There's honestly a 0% chance he's not. So, yeah, I'm there for a Cam Ward breakout.
Yeah, I mean, just to give you a point of reference, the guy is being drafted below Fernando Mendoza right now, which is just insane, in my personal opinion. A guy that may not even start from week 1. So, yeah, I think Cam is an absolute breakout candidate, obviously. A year 2 quarterback is the first overall pick. I mean, as I said before, do not overthink it.
If you guys enjoyed our quarterback breakouts, again, be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Comment down below a quarterback that you think is going to break out this year. Stay tuned for more fantasy football content. Running back sleepers coming in. No, not sleepers. Running back breakouts coming in a couple of days, so be on the lookout for that. And with that,
Ball game.